Hello, I'm Kayla Robison, the Communications Director here at WillSpace. I've sat down today with our founder, Will Torres, to talk about the programming, why we program, how we program, and go into the 5 pillars here at WillSpace. I've come to understand that the program training has been innovatively structured to different pillars, which sounds intriguing. Can you speak on that? There are 5?
We have 5 pillars, yeah. We've been talking for some time now about how the things that we do here fall within 8 or 9 different subjects. Tactical games, strength work, handstands, locomotion, and some other things. So what we did, we worked on is how do we take those subjects and create a more cohesive structure for our programming, for our private sessions, and then also for our classes. So we've taken certain subjects and we fit them within the 5 pillars. So first pillar being power, base, flex, space, and then flow. In no particular order, but what we're trying to do is just give a broader framework for the classes beyond just handstand or beyond just upper body and core, which is kind of a very linear approach. It's like, so we're trying to take a non-linear approach or kind of come at the body from different approaches to create a better result, and then ultimately better movers.
Amazing. Can you give me a small snippet on each of the pillars?
What we're working towards here ultimately is this freedom of movement, which to me means that I can move in many different ways, pain-free, beyond what I normally do, which is like squat, lunge. What else is there? So what we realized is to get there, we want to develop some foundation. And to develop the foundation, there's our first 3 pillars. So the first one being base. So base is about developing structural integrity, the joints, improving the joint mobility and joint strength. A type of strength called straight arm strength, which deals with the tendons, the ligaments, the little stabilizers of the body, which quite frankly are 10 times more important than just focusing on the muscles. Because yes, it's important to get stronger, but also what's holding those muscles in place is the connective tissue, and that's generally where all the injuries happen. So improving the mobility of the shoulders so that you can do a handstand, strengthening the hands, and then ultimately a lot of mobility work for the lower body so that you can explore other movements down the road. So that's base. And base works intimately with power. And then power is about developing the muscles, your push-up, your pull-up, your leg strength. And while upper body works really well, body weight works well for the upper body, for the lower body, you do need to add weight because they're just stronger. And in power, it's also about there are movements that you do where you need to be rigid, or you want the core engaged in a manner that stabilizes you so you don't hurt anything. Say something like a deadlift, or pushing weight overhead, or even doing a push-up. There has to be some integrity, some tension in the core so that you can move well. And then the flip side to that is we also want fluidity of the spine. So we want at times the spine to be stable, but we also want it to be fluid. And so there'll also be spinal work and power. And then lastly, it's moving slowly with control, but then moving explosively. Your ability to jump on a box and absorb that impact, or your ability to move quickly with tactical games where you have to move your body quickly so that you don't get touched on the shoulder by your partner when you're working. And those 2 are kind of beginning to develop the foundation. And then we have flex. And flex is a class that Lauren Bernard developed, I would say over the last 4 years. And she has a strong yoga background and then went to explore other techniques and strategies to develop mobility throughout the body. And she's created 3 incredible series for the hips, the upper body, the upper spine, and just touching on every piece of the lower and upper body to dive deeper into the mobility work. And what's unique about this flex is that it's every week about going further into the movement. So she's either doing long holds to get the muscles to relax so that they're able to go deeper into the stretch. Initially, the body wants to fight the stretch if it's not used to being stretched. And then also dynamic poses so that you're gently opening up the positions so that later on you can go deeper into those long holds. So between those 3, there's a lot of time invested in that. And really what you're just doing is developing some fundamental strength, joint integrity, flexibility, so that we can play. We had to look back and say, okay, how do we do this in a manner that it makes sense? And which pieces of these curriculum work well together? Even though we're supposed to do them all, like which ones really work well together? So we did our best to kind of create these categories or these pillars to help people better understand the broader work that we're doing. And I think ultimately the reality is that doing one type of work over and over and over again, it's what we call a linear approach. So I'm only focusing on getting stronger. I only want to get my 10 push-ups so that I can move on to the dip bars, so that I can move on to the rings. Yeah, that's important. But if you base yourself in that alone, you're inevitably going to get stuck because things don't progress that well. You never go from, the first couple of weeks of training, you might see a lot of improvement, but then you kind of hit the wall. You don't improve that much. In the first few weeks of training handstands, you see some big improvements, some big connections, but then you kind of stagnate a little bit. And you either need to invest more time in it, or sometimes you have to change the approach, go into another subject matter, dive into something else to see what else comes out. And so we've seen it. We'll see some students just want to do handstands, or some students just want to develop upper body strength. And then inevitably they hit the wall down the road, and I am trying to future-proof them for what's coming and not letting them get there. And the way to do it is to have a nonlinear approach. So where from the beginning, we're already inserting different challenges and different approaches and different subjects so that the whole system is being developed and not just pieces of it.
So base seems like a great place to start. What would you recommend? I'm like starting out, I want to work on it. How many times per week?
So in the beginning, when you pick a subject matter, like a pillar, so say it's base, you want to get the most out of it. You want to try to tackle the subject twice a week, or the subject matter. So you'd come in doing base twice a week. And that's a great way to begin. Or you're doing power twice a week, which is the yin and the yang of the body. Power dealing more with the muscles, more with explosiveness, jumping, the spine. And so, but then if you're doing power, you might want to try to do that twice a week as well. So in the beginning, twice is a good way to start, but now you're working towards getting 3 and then to 4. Some of our classes, some are even set up so you can do 2 in a row. So you can even get, for some of our students that come often enough, and they can do 2 classes back to back and deal with 2 different pillars, which is great as well.
So you can kind of weave together maybe 2 base, 2 power, and a flex, maybe twice if someone is like really committed to the work.
Yes, but also you want to people are going to come in with different needs. So, so sometimes men and women come in that are already very strong. They already have been lifting weights. So to do more of that in power, it's good, but it's not what they need. So they may need more base work, or they may need more flex work, or maybe they're ready to start tackling flow, which is the locomotive patterns and learning how to crawl and roll across the floor, which goes beyond just how much can you lift, how much can you squat, how much can you deadlift, how many different positions can you put your body into is also important. So yes, you have to work with the trainers and figure out what's going to be the right sampling for you and better understand the work, the pillars and the work that we're trying to do. And as things open up for you, then you can tackle other areas. Because you also don't want to come in every day in the beginning and then now you're burnt out.
Right.
You're motivated for 2 or 3 weeks and now you burn yourself out and then you have to take 2 months off, right? We want this to be an organic evolution.
Because it has a non-linear approach, would you say it's more about the journey than any sort of destination?
Yes, it's a theme in the work. It's, some of the trainers like to joke, I say often, you don't have it. We're working on a new skill. The students see the more advanced variation. They go and try it. And I say, you don't have it. Go to the variation before. Because the ego gets involved. And once your ego gets involved, now you lose touch with what we're trying to do. Number one, you have to honor where you're at, wherever you are. Okay, I'm a beginner. I haven't done anything for 3 years. Honor that I don't care where you were 20 years prior. You were a college athlete. Nobody cares. You're starting today from zero. Honor that, don't judge it, and let it be what it is. And then from there you can start building.
Yeah, I feel like for me at first, I was like, whoa, it was different, it was unique, and I had to remember that I had to have a beginner's mindset, and then I feel like that's what also kind of launched me into being more accepting and progressing even farther because I, wasn't being as hard on myself about the certain moves.
Yeah, and you're less judgmental than I am. So you were able to find that sooner. It took me 2 years to find that working on my own, and because ultimately it's not about getting the handstand. It's about what the process will give you. It's just a tool. It's not about developing your 2-minute hang. It's important. For some people, it could take them 3 weeks. For others, it could take them 2 years. But it depends how much you work on it. But then there has to come an acceptance with, okay, I'm not going to get this today. Because inevitably, we're going to find a progression for you that's going to challenge you. If I see you can do 10 push-ups, move on. We're going to move. I want you to do this other variation. You might only be able to get 2. And now the process begins all over again. So the journey, for sure, never ends. It's ever evolving. And that's cool. I think that's so cool about this. Because when I used to train, it only was about, I got my chest day in, I got my arm day in, I got my run in, I got my my leg day in, right? And now it's about so much more. Some days I'm dealing with base, some I'm doing a little bit of power, but the real juice for me is in flow. The locomotive, crawling and doing the step behind into the crab, into the QDR. I'm balancing on my hands. I'm bridging into a back bend because I couldn't do those things. I didn't come from a gymnastics background, but I took that energy that I was spending running and lifting weights, which at a certain point started to become boring for me. And I felt the aches and pains of that process. And I changed it with other movement. And it gave me so much personally that I had to share this. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. So there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, making sure that we're chewing on what we're teaching first. And then that way, when we speak to the students, we're clear, like, okay, this is what we're tackling here. This is what we're working on. This is what you have to do, execute. And teaching, explaining, like, once you get here, you can move on to this. Or it's going to take you some time. You got a lot of work there. Your shoulders are so tight. I need you to do this lat tri stretch every day. And let's see how much that opens up. Because until that opens up, other things won't be available to you. So in many respects with the work, we're trying to open up certain doors to go through. And then there's a whole other world of experience there. Okay, I have my handstand on the wall. I've opened up my shoulders. I have it. I can kind of kick up. Now I could play with cartwheels, different patterns of cartwheels. Now I'm stronger, so when I'm doing the locomotion crawling, my structure can actually support me when I go into these low positions on like a low lizard on my hands. So to bring back what I said, it's really not about the tool. It's about opening the door so we could play further, play beyond, go further, go deeper into the adult playground.
It was all playground. I love that word. How would you say that, there's this childlike play within the moves? If someone's looking in, they're like, what are they doing? It kind of brings in that, the swinging, all of that. Can you kind of talk on the adult playground?
Well, inevitably, someone's doing something here, and they always say, wow, I used to do this when I was little. That always comes up. But then I have little kids, they're 3 and 5 now, and many times I watch them play, and they're doing the things that I'm trying to teach adults without me introducing them to it. It's fascinating. My daughter moves around on the floor like she's doing floor work, and anything she sees that she can hang on, she hangs on. Whether it be an edge on a counter, jumps up and holds herself. Hanging chains, she'll jump up and she's like, it's built in her DNA. I didn't show her how to do that. My son is a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner. So he practices falling all the time. He falls consistently because he has a big sister that pushes him around. So he's preparing himself for the future, but he does different things. He crawls and jumps on his hands. He'll be crawling and puts his feet up on the wall. Again, all things that it's built into our DNA. If you see kittens and puppies playing, horse playing, you can see that a lot of times it looks like they're fighting, but in reality, they're getting ready for the wild. They're getting ready to hunt prey. And we used to, when we were younger, do these things. We used to hang. We see monkey bars. Let me climb up there. What happens if I put my leg over? Can I hang from one leg and one arm? Okay, 2 legs. Oh, I could do it. Can I come back up? And we play as children that way. But then we forget. We forget how to move because it's not really, there aren't a lot of adult playgrounds. And a lot of the education isn't around moving with just your body. And all the adult stuff is you need a treadmill, you need a bike, you need a machine. But you could do so much without any of that. Like a lot with just a floor and your body, a wall and your body. So yeah, a lot of what we're doing is taking you back to your DNA. And that's very powerful to me and very important as well.